It's been nothing but tariffs and tariffs and tariffs and tariffs. But we actually just recently got the latest job report, and it seems that the jobs are inclining just a little bit. But does it really feel like that? No, things are tightening up. I can tell you, being foot on the ground. I'm mostly in the technology sector. Healthcare is still booming. Healthcare is not going anywhere. There's still a shortage of nurses in some places, even after COVID. People are still killing it in that game, and there's still a demand for that. There's also has been an increase in government jobs, but there was also some layoffs. Because compared to the millions of government jobs that are actually active right now, there's only been thousands, tens of thousands that's been impacted and affected. So it's a pinch. It's not as painful as the news has made it seem. However, it is painful for those people that really got impacted and hurt by it. But they did increase jobs in the last quarter. So the good thing about all this that's happening, there is some transition that's going on. We're not at a total loss. We're not seeing jobs decline to the point where it's creating a panic for a recession. That doesn't mean things are not tight, especially in the tech sector. Companies are really tightening up. There has been a boom in AI last year, but that is starting to die down, just like with everything else. Anything that's hyped up, it doesn't get hyped up for a very long time, because reality hits and investors are going to be like, where's my money? Where's the return on investments that I was promised with all this craze that was happening? I've seen how the whole internet bubble started with Amazon having all these promises and all these corporations. It died down, the market crashed, but eventually it got there. So not saying this won't happen with AI, it's going to be the same thing that happens. It's just going to take a little bit of time. I want to touch briefly on real estate. I am seeing people are more conscious in terms of where they are renting. People are very conscious in terms of how much it's costing. Rents are not declining at all, especially in the metro area. I'm in the New York City tri-state area. I'm actually in Jersey City, but rents have increased slightly. It's not to the point where it was back in 2021, because property taxes, homeowner insurance aren't increasing as crazy. Homeowners insurance, though, mine did increase by 33%, so I had to shop around, find elsewhere, switched over. It's still not as cheap as it was once I first got it, but it is better than me paying that full premium. Some of the utilities have slightly increased. Why this affects certain things in the economy? Because if people are spending more on groceries, rent, cost of living, and all these things, it does impact how the economy fluctuates. Companies' profit margins are going to be impacted. Tariffs added on top of that brings into play another interesting factor, because with tariffs now, Trump's announcing tariffs on entertainment. So if you're doing entertainment from the outside, so that means you're shooting films elsewhere, whether you bring it to the United States or not, he's imposing 100% tariffs on whatever that is. So the full details on that is not completely clear, but if you did a film in the United States, for example, and we're selling it elsewhere to foreign countries, and let's say you made $50,000 off of it, so you're supposed to pay a portion of that, let's say 10%, right, to the United States. So that's $10,000. So instead of paying $10,000, you're not going to pay $20,000 to the United States for licensing that film elsewhere. Those numbers are just abstract. I'm just breaking it down to you in terms of how the tariffs work in that sense. That doesn't mean the film is going to cost you twice the amount. No, it's just the tax portion that the United States would charge you for the export. You're not paying double to actually do that. And for films that are being brought to the United States, I don't know how that works in terms of films that are being imported. But what does that do to these entertainment stocks? I don't think it's going to do absolutely nothing at all. People are still going to be paying for their subscription. I don't see this being impacted. Netflix is still going to be booming. So are all the other streaming platforms. They're not really going anywhere because people still utilize this. I consider these as essentials in a way, because during COVID, what happened? People stayed to their streaming. They got sick. They stayed home. They were still streaming. If anything, the streaming services were booming around that time because people didn't have anywhere else to go, nothing to do. The movie theaters were closed. Think about that with your investment portfolio for the long term. Short term, there might be some volatility there with Netflix and some of these streaming platforms, but long term, I don't think it's going to create that impact. We see Netflix went from 1100, it peaked at around December, and it went back down to 850, and it came back up to like 1100 now. Even with this little bit of news that came out on Monday, it dropped a little bit, but it wasn't drastic. It's doing a pinch. Netflix is still way high if you were a long-term investor that bought around 2022 when it dipped. I took advantage of that back then. I bought around 175, but I did sell my shares around 850, 860 back in December, and I actually allocated everything. I bought Grayscale Bitcoin Cash Trust, Litecoin Cash Trust, and also a bit of Grayscale Solana. So those three, because I wanted to diversify more into crypto. I had more crypto-based holdings inside of the retirement. This is just for one investment portfolio that I have which is my solo 401k that I did this allocation to, not for every single thing. With the bit of signal that I felt that Trump gave when it came to the whole crypto thing, things could have went crazy, things could not. It's always a risk. With investments, you got to always be mindful it's a risk. But if you're in it for the short term, you might feel very disappointed. But if you're in it for the long term, things will always rebalance to whatever is established. The United States is putting a lot of stepping stone into crypto. The United States, with the Trump administration, is actually placing a lot of things. They're all foundational. And you're probably not going to hear about all the things that they've allocated to until a year from now, months down the line, because by that point it's pretty much too late. But he did say they're gonna buy Bitcoin, they're gonna buy Ethereum and some other crypto based holdings in order for them to have as reserves. So you got to think about it for the long term. They keep buying it slowly and slowly, it's gonna boom out eventually. And the United States is not the majority stakeholder of any of these assets, right? They're only doing a pinch entirely, but it's just the global economy. Crypto is a global asset class which everyone has access to. Depending on your country, you might have some limitations in terms of which ones you can actually purchase, but for the big ones, usually it's accessible by most brokerages that sell crypto across the world. Don't let your investment be dictated by the news entirely. Pay it some mind, but don't let it affect you for the short term. Unless you're a day trader, you're a quick trader, then that's different. Then you got to constantly be inside of the weeds of these companies, see what's doing what, so you can make your short-term profits. I don't have the understanding of that, the mentality for that. I did a couple day trades here and there where I bought Dogecoins. I was playing with like 100,000 of Doge, buying and selling. I made it like an extra 15,000 in the short term, but it wasn't day trading in the sense of I was buying and selling the same day. It took some days. Pretty much what I was doing, I was buying it, wait for it to dip, I bought some more then, and wait for it to increase about 5%, so then repeated the cycle until the point where I said, all right, I gotta stop. And if I actually held on and did not do that, I would have had double the amount. I would have $250,000 worth of Doge around the summer when it peaked around 75 cents in 2021. So that's just to show you, I wasn't really built for that or meant for that. But if that's your thing, hey, do what you're comfortable with, what you enjoy doing. I'm more of the long-term strategy. What I'm doing right now is a recurring investment. I have $100 set towards Bitcoin and Ethereum, and also $100 set towards QQQ. So I'm buying these recurrently every single month, no matter what the market is doing. Very small, only $2,400 that's being allocated on a yearly basis towards these things compared to my other portfolios. But it's about diversifying, right? I put some here, I put some there, I put some there. Then when I need the cash, like for example, HIMS right now for me is way up. I bought it around $8 and I can liquidate that to do some other things. Broadridge is a company that I actually had RSUs from, so I still own these stocks. It's right now worth about $20,000, and that is the $20,000 I will get after the taxes are being deducted. These two right now is about $50,000 worth. I can liquidate and only paying long-term capital gains taxes on these next year. So that is what I mean. It's like you want to have different things here because one might be booming on a point where you actually need it. Then you can liquidate this and not worried about that. And that's just how the market works. And that's the recurring investments that you should always try to do in some allocations. Not saying that you don't find opportunities. Like for example, in 2022, when the tech stocks just bottomed out, that was a great opportunity. They tanked like more than 50%. Netflix went from $500 to $175. Like that is a 60-70% drop. You don't get that opportunity every day. So therefore, if you could have bought either a lump sum at that time or put more than a recurring investment. For example, if you were doing like $100 a month of Netflix, maybe you could have put an extra $200 in for that one time, or $300, $400, whatever that is. That's just the way wealth is actually built. So that way we're not being left behind. We're constantly doing things that we got to do to increase our wealth over time. So I hope you found all of this insightful. Don't panic again. Stay mindful, stay hopeful. Peace and love. Trust in Jesus. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.